Hi guys, it is Aoife from Fred VC Died Laughing and I'm here for another weekly wrap up. So this weekly wrap up is going up a little bit late just because I was really busy this weekend. I was actually in Belgium visiting my brother, so I didn't have any time on Sunday to record this. So this is going up on Monday or Tuesday instead. And the first book I read was Wild Irish Women by Marian Broderick. This is a collection of kind of just different chapters about different Irish women in history. Some of these women, not all of these women, were born and reared in Ireland. Some of them were second generation Irish. Some were just born in Ireland but moved very away when they were younger, but they all have kind of Irish, I guess, Irish relatives or links to Ireland in some way. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I had seen some kind of mediocre reviews on it just before going in, which made me a little bit nervous, but I actually really enjoyed the way this is written and the way it was kind of edited. The start of this, if you can just see here, all the women are kind of actually separated into different chunks of the book. So you have women who are authors, or women who are revolutionaries or in politics, women who are in science, women who were dressed as men, that kind of thing, women who were courtesans, women who were mistresses, all that kind of thing. So they are separated into different groups, which I really enjoyed, because it gave each kind of chunk a bit of a theme. And there were just so many women in here that I had never even heard of, and I found really interesting, and I can't wait to read more about them, thanks to the start I have with this book. So I did really enjoy this. I think it was really well written. I did really enjoy this, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, and big thanks to O'Brien Press for sending this to me in exchange for an honest review. The next book I read was Married Quarters by Connaughton, and unfortunately this is actually one I DNF'd about 80% through. I was only maybe a chapter and a half, I think, away from the end, but I don't know, I just couldn't do it. I just could not finish this book. This is a book, I think it's set maybe in the 50s, but I'm not 100% sure exactly the timeline of this. And it's basically in this border town kind of between the south and the north of Ireland. And the whole story is kind of told from the point of view of the sergeant's son, who we don't really get his name that much in the book, but I'm pretty sure his name is Daniel or Danny. And he's about 18, 19, he's in college, and we're just seeing his kind of different relationships with each of the guards in this town, and each chapter is about one specific guard, and kind of almost from the time he started in the village to the time he leaves the village. And we're seeing how Danny kind of maybe gets involved with the life, or becomes friends with him, or, you know, becomes involved with him in some way. And this was, I think this was well written. It was just really boring. There was just nothing in it that really gripped me and really wanted me to read on. I just found myself getting really bored reading it and just not really enjoying it because of that. So yeah, I did put it down and I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Girl from Ballymor by Kathleen McGurl, and this is a book that is historical fiction, but it's also set in the present day. So we have one timeline, a woman called Kitty McCarthy, and she is trying to rear her family during one of the Irish famines in 1847. So we're seeing her kind of despair, not being able to feed her children. A bunch of her other children have died, her husband is dead, and she's just figuring out how to survive. And she also has some secrets that she is trying to keep hidden as well. And then we're in present day with this woman called Maria, who we find out is a descendant of Kitty's, and she is trying to figure out the kind of just more about who she has come from, her Irish family, and she kind of ends up getting wrapped up in this mystery of what happened to Kitty McCarthy. She is also dealing with some stuff in her own life and some secrets that she has that she hasn't really told anyone yet. So we're kind of seeing some parallels between the two of them as well. I did really enjoy this. I didn't really expect to enjoy it so much, I think, but I thought it was just one of those stories that you could just dive in. I read this in one day, you could just dive in and you could just read the whole lot. It's really quick reading. I felt like it was very informative enough about the famine, but not, especially for people who might not know too much about the famine in Ireland. So it told enough and gave enough of kind of the horrors of it and how desperate people were, but it didn't go overboard. It didn't get too info dumpy about things. You just really kind of got a little glimpse of life, of what life was like for kind of the peasant people during this time, and how kind of the English lords who owned the land, how they didn't really help as well, and how blind they were to the people's suffering as well. So I think that did show really well. I definitely enjoyed Kitty's chapters more so than Maria's. I think Maria just kind of got a bit whiny and annoying for me at one stage, but I did warm up to her eventually. At the start I didn't really like her, but by the end of the book I had warmed up to her and warmed up to her own storyline and what she was going through, and I did really enjoy it. I do think parts of this were a little bit simplistic in the writing, but again, I don't think that was too much of a bad thing, because it did mean that it was very easy to fly through. So yeah, I did really enjoy this, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is probably one of my favourites of the week, and that was The Dolocher by Caroline Barry, and this is set in 1752 Dublin, and it is basically around this man who was supposed to be hung for the murder and rape of these women, and he ends up killing himself in prison, and then this kind of almost demonic presence or something starts murdering and raping again, and people seem to think that it's like the Dolocher back from the dead and kind of ravaging his way through Dublin. And we have 2 characters who we're following. One of them is called Marian O'Grady, and she is a ship surgeon turned apothecary who wears men's breeches and is very much her own woman. And there's also a man who becomes a lodger in her building, and his name is Solomon Fish, and he's kind of like a journalist. He does these kind of I guess penny dreadfuls almost in a way, and he is investigating about the Dolocher and what the Dolocher is doing and who the Dolocher could really be, and what the hell is going on with it basically. And then there's also this other character of a little girl who Merriment kind of adopts, almost like takes her in as an apprentice, and her name is Janie Mack, because she always uses that expression, Janie Mack, when anything happens, and she is just an absolute beam of sunshine. She is amazing. I loved her so much. But this book was just told really, really well. It was written really, really well, kept me gripped until the very end. I just thought it was just so good. I was just so blown away by how good this was, and this has been sitting on my shelf for 2 years, and I just hadn't gotten around to reading it, and I'm so glad I finally did. And I just cannot recommend this enough for people who like historical fiction, people who like some crime novels, people who like something that could border on something a little bit supernatural or paranormal, a little bit of horror. Like, there are some gruesome descriptions in this that might not be for the faint-hearted, but I just really, really enjoyed it. I loved the chemistry between the characters of Merriment and Solomon. It was really, really natural, and I just really, really enjoyed their interactions. And then, as I said, I just loved Janie Mack so much. She was just a wonderful character just to plop into the middle of it, just for the way she talked and kind of the honesty that she brought to a lot of the story was just really, really great. So I just adored this. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars in the end. Absolutely loved it. Cannot recommend it enough for people. Go and read this as soon as you can. The next book I read is longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction, and it is Homefire by Kamila Shamsie, and is based around kind of this one British Muslim family, and we're told, we see kind of like different chapters from different people. Some of the chapters, the first chapters are told from the older sister's point of view, as she goes to America for a PhD, and we see her being interrogated by security in the airport, and how terribly she is treated just because she is a Muslim woman living in Britain and trying to get to America. And then we're seeing just her relationships with her younger siblings who are twins, and we're seeing, all we kind of know is that her brother is into something bad and something a little bit shameful, and we don't really know what that is, but it's kind of slowly unfolds by the end. And this is one I enjoyed but I didn't love, and it's not one that I feel like I can really explain, except that it really did pack a punch. I thought it was very easy to read, a very quick read for me as well. I've read this mostly in one day, and the end of this book is just like a kick to the stomach. Whatever way, the ending of this, like just literally the last paragraph was just like, whew. Like, I actually made that noise when I finished it. It just really makes you think. It just really is a powerful ending to a book, and I think it has like a lot of messages, this book as well. And I would say, obviously, this is own voices as well. So I would recommend people give this a go. It's a good one to read on your phone or your Kindle. I read it on my phone through my library app, and I really enjoyed that. It was a quick read, as I said. So yeah, I can't really say too much about it, except that it packs a punch and it was pretty good. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And the last physical book I read this week was Grief is a Thing with Feathers by Max Porter. I see this on Monday as a play, and Cillian Murphy is going to be in it, and I'm very excited for that. So I wanted to read the story that obviously inspired the play, and it's kind of weird. It's really strange. It's about a family of 2 boys and a husband, and the mother has died, and they invite this crow into their house, who I think is supposed to symbolise their grief, and kind of stays as they are mourning and as they are grieving, and eventually leaves when they seem to have gotten better and seem to have kind of healed and started to move on with their lives. And it is just, I don't even know how to review this except to say it was weird, but it was like addicting and good in a way, and I'm very interested to see what it's like on stage. I feel like it's going to be disturbing and weird but enthralling all at the same time. So I'll probably update on that later next week at some point. But yeah, I mean, it's only 114 pages. It's a very, very quick read. Probably not one for people who like proper narrative structures in a book, or in a proper story. Like if you only like those kind of books, you probably wouldn't like this one because it's a little bit all over the place. But I just thought it was different and I enjoyed it for what it was. Which, yeah, finished this week was an audiobook, and it was actually the audiobook of The Krill Prince by Holly Black, which I've been reading for the last couple of weeks, and I just happened to finish it this weekend. Obviously you guys know I've already read this in December, and I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Again, I really, really enjoyed The Krill Prince on audiobook. I basically just wanted to experience an audiobook and see what it was like, and I did get to see Holly Black last week when she was over in Dublin for a Q&A and a signing, so I did get my book signed as well, which I'm really happy with. So yeah, I think I would give the audiobook maybe a 4 out of 5 stars. I just, like, it was fine. She just wasn't my favourite narrator. So yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed the story as always. The story would probably still be a 5 out of 5 stars for me. I just love this world a lot, and the audiobook would be a 4 out of 5 stars. So yeah, I would recommend people try the audiobook if they want to. That's everything I have read. Please let me know what you guys think about everything that I have talked about, and leave your comments down below. I would love to read them. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys again next time.